Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday Wealth Wisdom. I'm Money Coach Jen, and joining me, my cohort here is Amanda. How are you doing today, Amanda?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jen?
I'm doing great. I mean, who doesn't love talking about money and finances and all that, right?
Right, I agree.
So, you're a financial professional.
I
What
am.
exactly does that mean?
That is a great question. So, a financial professional is someone who can put a financial plan together for someone who does a lot of the practical stuff on the finance side. So, life insurance, retirement accounts, annuities, business accounts, business 401ks, things of that nature. So, I meet with clients, find out what their current situation is, what are their financial goals, what do they want to accomplish with their money, and then I make recommendations on things that they can put into place, places they can put their money, things of that nature to help them meet their goals. So it's a lot about just figuring out what kind of accounts are suitable for a client, whether it's a short-term goal, intermediate, long-term, that sort of thing. It's all about trying to save them on taxes when we're talking about long-term savings. It's all about making sure that they know their spending and understand the importance of budgeting. Emergency funds are really important. So a lot of that stuff is what I cover.
So important. So
Yes.
important.
Yes. So you're a money coach, and what exactly does that entail?
So I'm more on the day-to-day grind, the
Mm-hmm.
day-to-day money. I also set goal, listen to my clients
Mm-hmm.
to hear their goals, what their short-term goals are, what their long-term goals are. A lot of times the short-term goals relate around debt and
Right.
how we get out of debt. Long-term goals are wanting to have an emergency fund,
Yep.
wanting to save up for a house, wanting to invest in a retirement.
Yep.
Really, when we met, it was like, we really need to get together because, once I get my clients on their feet,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the financial literacy of day to day,
Right.
I happily turn it over to you to get them set up for their life, basically. And our goal, and we're so intermingled in the sense that we want our clients to reach their goals and we want
Mm-hmm.
people to live the life that they think is so out of reach when it really isn't. It
Right.
is.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that when we met each other, we realized that there isn't a whole lot of overlap within our perspective, careers. We deal with very different aspects of finance that are very complementary to each other. So, we talked about how I could meet with a client who, you know, needs a plan put together, needs to have some guidance over where their money should go, but maybe they're stuck in their head about their money. Maybe they're dwelling on some mindset stuff, some stuff they grew up on, or maybe they just do not know how to budget. I make a recommendation that they need to, but I don't necessarily go into how. And
Mhm.
then that is something that you can help them with. So
Right.
it's a very complementary thing to be able to have someone who deals more on the mindset side and some of the other things where I'm on the little bit more practical side, like where should we put your money? What's most important to you? Priorities, things like that.
Yeah, and I think in my experience, thinking of using a financial professional is only for people that have money. And that can be
Right.
defined in so many different ways because, my definition of having money and your definition of having money is going to be different. And I love how you mentioned the mindset piece because, we're taught that getting out of debt has to be hard.
Right.
It it must be hard. You
Mhm.
must give up everything. You can't enjoy life. And when I hear that, I'm like, well, why would anybody want to get out of debt? I mean, if I have to
Mhm.
sit around in the dark and look at my partner or, wish that we were going out and having fun. And I think that's where my approach is so different. It's, yeah, you need to make some changes, but
Mhm.
you don't have to cut up every credit card and eat
Right.
ramen for the next 6 months or, there's another way of going about it. And everybody needs a financial professional. I can't think of any scenario where someone doesn't need help, including myself, plan for my future because it takes a different set of financial skills in order to do that.
There's also this thought process out there, this myth that you can't save and pay off debt at the same time.
Hmm.
And that actually
Interesting.
came up in a client meeting I had yesterday where she asked, I've got this credit card debt, I've got some other things I'd like to pay off. Shouldn't I just put all my money towards that before I start saving? And I
Hmm.
have to explain the importance of an emergency fund is to keep people from using their credit cards and getting into more credit card debt if an emergency happens. So when I sit down with someone and I know how much discretionary income they have, I might make a suggestion of putting a percentage of that into the emergency fund, a percentage towards the debt, but they need to happen at the same time, because if you don't have that safety net ready for an emergency, then guess what you're going to do? You're going to swipe the card to pay for the emergency, and now you've just created more and more debt that you're trying to already, shovel your way out of. So once I explained that to her, it made a lot more sense. And she goes, yeah, you're absolutely right. That would have been how I would have handled emergency if I did not have something in a bank account ready to help out.
Well, and going on that a little bit more, there are ways to save money on like our day-to-day insurance,
Mm-hmm.
our automobile, our
Yep.
home, things like that. If we were able to tap into the higher deductibles, and
Mm-hmm.
and you save a lot of money if you can pay
Yes.
a higher deductible. And so that's one of the things that we establish ahead of time is like,
Mm-hmm.
once we can get this up to a certain amount, look at all the savings annually, which
Yes.
then can be used for more emergency. I mean, it is really not to, because one of the debt payoff is snowball, but it literally is a snowball effect. You start
Yes.
small, you set small milestones, and
Mm-hmm.
before you know it, I mean, you're soaring in the financial realm.
Yes. And something else people need to consider too when they're trying to figure out how much emergency fund they need to have. Sure, there's the industry standard 3 to 6 months income or expenses. Usually people can decide which one is a bit more comfortable for them. But for a baseline, people need to understand and know their deductibles for
Mm.
auto insurance, for home or renter's insurance, for medical insurance, because that is the bare minimum you should have in your emergency fund.
Absolutely.
If something happens and you are responsible for that deductible, you want to make sure that you've got the money available to cover that expense. So when I'm meeting with, and sometimes, you can't hit that right away, and that's okay. It's a goal to
Yes.
reach.
Yes.
I'll have someone starting brand new from scratch say, let's just get you to 1,000. A
Hmm.
thousand will cover quite a few emergencies. So that's a good place to start. Then let's get you to 5,000. And then, going from there, we then want to reach a number that is going to make someone feel comfortable.
Hmm.
There's a number in everyone's head
Hmm.
right now that if you say, this is how much I have in my emergency fund, you feel safe, you feel secure.
Right.
So everyone has a different number of what that is, but knowing that should be your ultimate goal. Like,
You,
what's the number that's going to make you feel really good about anything that happens?
it's amazing. We both have the same we customize it to the person. We don't
Mhm.
have a step 1, step 2, it's not rigid.
Right.
It's very customized. So I'm curious, what made you become a financial professional?
So that's a great question. I grew up in poverty. I was the daughter of a single mom working 2 or 3 jobs, food
Mhm.
stamps, latchkey kid, you know, living in apartments, trailer parks, you name it. So I definitely experienced a lot of scarcity and lack in my childhood. And growing up, that kind of stayed with me a little bit.
Mhm.
And then in my 20s, I got married and then got divorced and had to go through divorce and, the struggle that is financially. And at the time, I did not have the resources around me to teach me what to do with this money. I
Mhm.
was fortunate that I got a little bit of money out of the divorce, but then I had to figure out where to put it, what to do with it. So I
Right.
basically had to teach myself
Mhm.
about money. I had to start listening to podcasts and reading books and doing all of these things to understand more about the different types of accounts you can put your money in and what the importance of compound interest and interest rates and all of that is. So my background's actually in clinical research. I spent 13 years in healthcare working on cancer clinical trials and diabetes clinical trials. And it was a very great career. It was very rewarding, but I wasn't passionate about it. I wasn't helping people directly. I was behind the scenes, behind a desk, looking at spreadsheets of data from the clinical trials and onboarding new faculty and staff onto the academic center. So I needed something much more fulfilling, much more in line with my personality. I love talking to people. I love being out there amongst others. And then I just love helping people. Like, I just want to make an impact in someone's life and be able to add value to them. And so when I was thinking about what's my next career move, finance is such a great place to go because to even become a financial advisor, financial planner, you don't have to go back to school. All you have to do is get some licensing, get some training, maintain, that licensing. And so I, started taking the test, learning how to meet with clients, learning about all the products and services available, and realize that this is really where my passion is, because a lot of this is financial literacy. A lot of it is teaching people about their money and helping them understand more about it so that they can make smart decisions with it. So I started doing this about a couple of years ago. I've been full-time over a year now. So
Mhm.
I just really love that I was able to find something that um, really resonates with me, that's really like lights me up and gets me excited.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a really great uh transition and all of that. So yeah.
We
What about you? What got you into money coaching?
well, yeah, we're taught so much in school about money, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Right,
I mean, like,
exactly. I knew
go
so
get a
much
job,
about money when I left school.
right? I mean, go get a job, go buy a house, get married, have kids, but no
Yep.
instructions, right? So me,
Yeah.
I also grew up with a single mom. She worked very, very hard, and
Hmm.
she used credit. And that's my introduction to money. I never saw anything but a credit card.
Right.
And we would go shopping and it would be fun and it would be exciting and it was a great time to bond. And I never realized that my grandmother was helping her with her
Mm,
bills.
right.
And so when I got out into the world, because it would just settle itself, it would figure
Hmm.
itself out, right? You'll figure it out.
Right.
It'll come,
Yeah,
just water that
totally.
money tree. And so I go to school to become an accountant and went on to become a CPA. I was climbing the the corporate ladder, doing multi-billion-dollar budgets and maintaining financials for these companies. And I would leave, and I knew I didn't have the money to spend. I knew I shouldn't use credit cards because I knew I didn't know where the money was going to come.
Mm-hmm.
And but I got such relief from shopping. And this
Yeah.
is where you get the mindset part of going into debt. When we shop, we get a chemical dopamine hit, which
Mm-hmm.
has been compared to gambling and all the way to addicts that use drugs. And you start craving that feel good feeling.
Yes.
And tons of research has been done that not only do you get a dopamine hit when you decide to go shopping, plus you
Mm-hmm.
shut your mind off because now you're
Right.
looking at, oh, these are a nice set of shoes. Then you put
Mm-hmm.
it on sale. That's another dopamine hit. Then you
Yep.
take it to the counter and they have a coupon that you can get 10 to 20. There's another
Right.
dopamine hit. So
Yep.
before you know it, you're riding high and
Mm-hmm.
you're on your drive home. And about 15, 20 minutes later, you're thinking, oh my God, what did I just do? And
Right.
so the guilt starts rushing in.
Yes.
And I've also read research that online shopping is 10 times worse
I'm
because
sure.
you get a dopamine hit when you go pick the item. You get a dopamine hit when you see the box, and you get a dopamine hit when you open it because you've probably forgotten what you actually ordered, because
Mm-hmm.
it is a surprise.
Yeah.
So I got into debt, and I was a CPA, and I knew how budgeting worked, and I still got into debt. And I did it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Not just once, 3 times. And it wasn't until I understood why I was overspending that I was able to reverse the problem.
Right.
And so we get out of debt, we're going along, and my mother suddenly dies. And I'm an only
Mm.
child.
Mm.
And she never overcame her overspending.
Sure.
So I inherited not, I didn't have to repay the debt, but I
Mm-hmm.
had to deal with the debt.
Right.
And at that moment, I realized we are so lacking in financial literacy that I felt a calling that I needed to help people be able to maintain the day to day because I have the skills and I've been
Right.
through it and I know exactly what it's like. So
Yeah.
I woke up one day and said, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to help people. So again, the same passion. I want to help people.
Yes. I love that. And it's so funny how we grew up with very similar backgrounds. And I also dealt with credit card debt and in my 20s and my 30s. I mean, moving across country, I used to live in Florida and then I moved to Colorado, and, to rent a truck for all of your stuff to,
Right.
Establish a new apartment, all of that costs money. And so it was one of those where I'm just like, I'll put it on the credit card and I'll deal with it later. Like right now I'm just focused on my new life in Colorado and my new start.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got settled in, I looked at my credit card and I was like, got like $9,000 on this credit card. How the heck am I going to pay this?
Right.
Knowing that the cost of living in Colorado was such that I didn't have a lot left over after my paycheck.
Right.
There wasn't enough to really put a dent into that credit card. So something I had to do was get a second job. I
Mm-hmm.
actually went and worked at a running store, like a shoe store,
Mm-hmm.
and basically worked there from, I want to say, May to November. And every paycheck I got from that store went directly towards that credit card. And by November, I had thankfully paid it off. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't have to be here anymore. Bye. Like,
Yeah.
and like, of course, not everyone can just like have extra time in their day to go work retail or to go do whatever. But we're so lucky nowadays that there are so many other
Sure.
ways to earn money
Mm-hmm.
where you can have extra income coming in and you can have an actual place for it to go. So, if you are trying to pay down debt, there's so many things with like Rover and food delivery and, house sitting, you name it. And a lot of people, if right, and a lot of people, if you're being intentional about the money that you're making from this could be a quicker way to help pay some of that down. And then of course you have to work with someone like Jen to be able to understand why you created that debt in the first place and to keep you from doing that again once the debt is gone. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Because, for me, it was, let's just take out a consolidation loan because financially that makes sense.
Right.
And my husband was like, absolutely makes sense. But I was still spending while paying off the loan and got us back there again. And it wasn't, like I said, the mindset piece. I don't care if you're talking day-to-day money or future planning money, your money story greatly impacts the decisions that you make with your money today.
Yes.
And on down in the future.
Totally.
I mean, just if you don't think that, that only certain, like my biggest thing I've always heard is, only rich people can have a retirement. No, that's not true.
No, not at all.
We all get to do that. All of us.
Yes.
And we all get to have life insurance and we all get to have an emergency fund. So it just, yeah.
But it has to be a priority though.
It does.
That's the thing. And especially younger people, so people right out of college in their 20s, retirement is really far away for them. Like they're not even thinking about retirement. They're thinking about, yeah, exactly. They're thinking about my new job out of college. I'm so ready to have an apartment or to do this or whatever, that prioritizing retirement is usually not high on their list. But the younger you start saving, the more you're going to have by the time you're there. It's all about, time and compounding. And I mean, there's so many statistics out there that show you can save little, like much less in your 20s to get to the same number, but in your 30s it gets bigger, in your 40s it gets bigger, to all reach, $1 million, 2 million, whatever the goal is. So like you do have to help future you.
Yes.
In making those decisions now, so that, future you doesn't get to retirement and be like, man, I really wish I had saved, really wish I would have, contributed up to that match of that 401k in my 20s, because that would have been a really nice supplement to my retirement.
Now. Right. Yeah. Well, and like I've got high school kids and I keep, we're always talking money and everything. And I'm like, and I have a financial advisor. So I've had my kids, as when they start working, meet with them, and watching their face when they understand compounded interest.
Yes.
How just a little bit today, which you're not going to miss.
Right.
It really makes a huge difference come 60, 70, whatever the retirement age is going to be.
Yep.
On down the road.
It really does. Like, these are the things we should have learned in school, right?
I mean, could you imagine if we could go and do it over again?
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to go through high school again, but
no, thank you. I'm good. I'm totally good. But
if we can have the knowledge.
Right, exactly. I did hear a statistic that I believe we're up to 23 states now that have mandated financial literacy classes in school.
That's great.
Which is a great number, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And thankfully, there's some really great organizations out there that supplement any of those states that don't mandate it. They will still go into schools and provide some personal finance courses or education to kids, so they're not without any basic money knowledge when they eventually get to, college or just start, managing money on their own for the first time. So I love that we are moving in that direction. It's so needed because right now you're seeing all of the current generations just trying to figure it out. Like, we had to learn from our mistakes. We had to learn from other people's mistakes. Like,
and most of the times we take on what our parents did because as a child, that's what
Mhm.
you know. That's what you, I mean, it's not like we all sit at a party and talk about money. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's such a taboo conversation, which is a shame because I think a lot of people are suffering silently
Yes.
and they're all in the same room together. And if they'd all come together, drop the shame, drop the guilt,
Mhm.
and we could all benefit each other if somebody says, hey, we're not going out this weekend, why don't we meet at everybody's house, do old-fashioned board games. I mean, there's so many ways to still have fun without spending any money.
Right.
And that's kind of why we're doing this. I'm leading us into why we came up with the Wednesday Wealth Wisdom is we want to show people what is possible.
Mhm.
Dream big.
Yep.
Dream huge, because
Yes.
it's not for just one small percentage of the population. It is really for everyone.
It is. And that is one of the reasons why I do the work that I do. There are many types of financial professionals out there, wealth managers, financial advisors, CFPs, you name it. They all have their specialties. Some of them charge a fee, some of them don't. And we want to make sure that everyone can be helped.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do not have the money to sit down with a financial professional, someone like myself is a great fit for you because I don't charge my clients for my services. You can meet with me for free to put a financial plan together and have your future taken care of, have your goals put down, and have actionable steps to put together to reach those goals. If you do have money and you want to work with someone that's fee-based, there's so many amazing options out there for you to work with a fee-based advisor who can give you all sorts of great advice and, again, tell you where to put your money and all of that stuff. So I just love that, all of the different professionals out there, we each have the type of people that we like to help, but we just don't want to exclude anyone. We want to make sure everyone knows that help is available to them. And that's what's so great about it.
Yeah, and it's available to that's the
Everyone.
key. It's just not the wealthy that need to plan for their future. It is everyone.
Yes.
And it starts with the day-to-day,
Mm-hmm.
your day-to-day spending and not living paycheck to paycheck and realizing. And I'll tell you, that was my biggest aha on the other side of debt. Being in debt, it's always there. You're always thinking about it. It always pulls from you because you're worried about, oh, is my credit card going to go through? Or I really shouldn't go to this happy hour. I really should go home, or I need to find another job, or, the shoulda, where you just shouldn't all over yourself, right? And the other side of debt, you sleep at night. I mean, you have opportunities that you never dreamt of. I mean, there's just a better way to live.
Yes.
Than paycheck to paycheck or struggling to make the bills. It's just a better way to live. And our life is short and we all want to have fun. And that's kind of why we decided to bring our minds together to try to help as many people as we can.
Yes. I have noticed in the many clients that I've worked with that most of my clients fall into two categories. They either have a spending problem or they have an income problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it really falls down to that. Inflation's high right now. We see it at the grocery store. We see it at the gas pump. It's becoming more and more expensive to just pay for the basic things that we need.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, our wages are not going up at the same level as the cost of living, the cost of everything. And so a lot of people are barely making enough to meet their needs. They're not even going out and just, eating out to eat
Blowing
every
it.
night
Right.
or blowing it or whatever else. They literally just don't have a lot left over when all is said and done. But then there are people who just like to spend and just like to shop or like to, live life now and experience and whatever else, but to an extreme, to the point where now they're, again, having credit card debt. They're dealing with past them, and, paying for past them's purchases and things of that nature. And so it's important to identify which one of those you are, because then there are solutions to it if you're not making enough or if you're just spending too much. And I think that sense of awareness is really important.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm even going to break it down further. The two types that I see is they give all their money, either they overspend or they give all their money away trying to help others, which is a noble cause.
Yes.
But wouldn't it be better to teach those that need a little bit of help, how to manage money better? And I also noticed the other side, which is the people that purchase on emotion. It's fun. It's, I want to keep up with the Joneses.
Yes.
That kind of thing. So totally agree. Income problem, expense problem. But even further than that is a lot of giving money away, trying to help, which is leading towards enabling maybe. And then those that really need to give it 24 hours before they make that spending decision.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's insane. I saw an article, and I really wanted to post some context around it, but there was an article about how there is not a single state in the United States where someone making minimum wage can afford a 1-bedroom apartment. Not a single state. And then it breaks down even further, and it goes into, what if someone wants to, rent or buy a 2-bedroom something? What would they need to be making each, making per hour to be able to afford something like that? And they broke it down by each state. Obviously, the most expensive state is Hawaii, California, New York's right there behind them. But it's crazy to see the disparity between, those minimum wage and then the amount you need to just be able to afford something like that. And that speaks to, again, the kind of income problem we're seeing. More and more people have 2, 3, 4 even type of jobs. They got a business on the side of their full-time job, or like I said, they're doing all this other kind of gig work, simply because the cost of living is not, they're not getting paid a livable wage, and they have to supplement it in some other way. And it's unfortunate that we're in this situation, but I think people need to kind of figure out, how do I make this life enjoyable, but then also how do I prepare myself for the future? And because we don't want everyone to have to work through retirement when they could do things in their life now to give them a better retirement life down the road.
And it's never too late
to
get started.
No.
I don't care what anyone says. It's never too late to get started.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I am also on a mission to, we are inundated with commercials and society and what success looks like and what fun looks like. And, I like to help people let their money work for them. Because there's ways of doing that while we're getting out of debt.
Yes.
And there are ways to learn how to use credit cards to benefit you.
Wisely, yes.
Very wisely. I don't think I've paid for a vacation in years because I use the points on my credit card
Yep.
to be able to fund those. And the points are getting better and better to entice more people. And once you learn to use credit and pay it off, then you get the extra bit. So this is other ways that we can teach you
Yes.
how to even extend your dollar even further. So
Yeah.
there's so many tips and tricks, and it's like we have a bag full of things that we want to share.
I know. And that's why I'd like to really lean on my referral partners or business partners as well. Because one of the questions I always ask my clients is, have you shopped your home and auto recently?
Eye-opening, isn't it?
People think that because they've been with XYZ for 5 or 7 years that they're getting some sort of loyalty discount. But the reality is you're not. You're truly not getting any benefit for sticking with them for a long period of time. So you have to, every year or two, shop around and find a place that gives the same coverage or better for less. And it magically opens up new money for you that you can put towards debt or put towards savings. And it's such a great, quick way to free up some money.
There's lots of potential there.
Yeah.
I mean, cell phones,
Yep.
your satellite,
Electricity.
it is endless. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think we hit all the high points that we wanted to today.
Yeah.
We'll be a little bit more structured going forward. So what did we decide we were going to talk about next week?
So next week, I mean, I can't believe we're talking about it, but Christmas is 9 weeks away, basically. And so we need to get people prepared for Christmas and what can be a very expensive holiday for some. We've got a lot of great tools and tricks that you can use to save some money at Christmas, not be able to, bust a budget, do any of that stuff. So we're really excited to talk about some alternatives for people that can still allow them to have a great Christmas, but not break the bank.
Yeah. And I'm doing a Stash Before You Dash lives on Friday at 11:30 Central Time to give more tips, kind of I'm calling them kind of mini challenges. You can do as little or as much as you want. But my goal is to either have you buy at least one gift this year with cash and not on credit, or all of Christmas, but if we could just make it 1% better than it was last year, then we've succeeded. And that's kind of my approach to getting out of debt. We set these small milestones and let's just make it a little better this week.
Yeah.
Just a little better. And before you know it, it's a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really excited for that. I think people are going to take a lot of great information away from it and probably feel a little less stressed out this holiday season. That's the goal anyway. So
that is the goal. That is the goal. Man, I love our time together. I mean, this is fun. I hope everybody else is going to get something out of it, but we're certainly having fun.
Yeah.
So, well, it's so nice to talk, and I can't wait till next week.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks everyone for tuning in and getting to know us a little bit better. And we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.